what you did, you little jerk.
Open up your minds, jerk faces, and welcome to another episode of the Circle of Jerks podcast. We got here Andy, as always.
What up?
And old friend returning, Matt.
What's up, guys?
And we're gonna blow your minds today. You think you know what's going on in the world today, or what's been going on in the past. Well, we're here to change your mind and show you that not everything is what it seems. The truth is out there.
April Fools! We're gonna do a beauty tutorial. Get your makeup out. Get your makeup out. Hey, sisters! Gonna show you how to repurpose those old bikini bottoms.
I'm gonna turn into a hipster, and I'm gonna inquisitively ask everything like this.
Oh my God! Shoot me now.
I really didn't want to even go to college, so I don't know why my mom tried so hard.
That's
okay.
Cool.
So
it's funny. Yes, this episode is dropping April Fools, so we had to. But it's funny because when the last time I went fishing, the day we were leaving, this other family or group came in next to our site, and one of the women there that talked with she talked with upspeak. And I was just like, oh, thank God we're leaving today, because if I had to spend another day listening to that,
that's our signal to start packing up.
Precisely.
Yeah. Scaring all the fish.
I know, you're scaring all the fish.
They're not biting.
That is one of the most annoying things to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh God,
like the fish are not biting.
Does California have to apologize for this? I mean, did we create the Valley Girl?
Well, technically, yeah.
Girl, like the Oh My God Girl.
One of my favorite Frank Zappa songs is Valley Girl.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like that speak is technically from the Valley and
Correct.
San Fernando Valley. That's when
Sherman
people
Oaks.
talk about the Valley. That's the Valley that
The
they're
mall.
talking about.
I know. Suck
was
it,
the
San
Sherman
Gabriel.
Oaks Mall they were referring
Gag me
to.
with a spoon.
Yeah, Sherman Oaks. Yeah, so suck it, San Gabriel.
Yeah. Wow, we really deviated.
So we shattered
already.
the conspiracy that California is one of the most annoying states.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. That's commonplace. I think most of the country thinks that we're terrible.
Right. So we are.
I live here and I think it's terrible.
We are truly products of California.
Absolutely.
Anyways, so a lot of our we were doing some talking before the podcast, and inadvertently, I think a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today are interconnected.
That's what we found out in our research.
Yeah.
We were talking pre-show that we had a lot of things that were crisscrossing.
Yeah.
Amongst our conspiracy theories here.
I think this is going to be very interesting. You know what? I'm going to let you start off, Matt. Why don't you
All right.
seem to be the most prepared and.
Well, don't set me up for a fault. But I was looking into generally just UFOs. I mean, first of all, do they exist? There's a group that believes they do. There's a group that believes they don't. And all the evidence has been debated. We haven't actually seen from the government a file, an actual artifact. We haven't been presented with a piece of a craft that has been crashed. But in my research, you think about who are the most credible witnesses. Mm-hmm. And in my research, I was coming across some of the more credible witnesses. I would think are some of the military guys, the astronauts, the test pilots, the people that were actually up to date on the latest technologies. Mm-hmm. Who could understand what they're looking at when they see the performance of an unidentified craft. Mm-hmm. They see the way it's moving, and they know, because they're experts, at this altitude, at this speed, at my speed, this is not something that we have in our military capabilities, and God forbid we hope that the Russians don't have it at that time. In the 50s. This was, Roswell crashed in 1947.
Yeah.
So at that time, we're expecting that the military, if this is a true event, the military is now accepting the reality of alien existence, and they now have in their possession alien technology. Mm-hmm. So how much of our modern day galaxy, how much of our modern day technology could be, extracted from alien technology? Some of the retired guys who worked at Roswell, written some books. One of them specifically said that it's possible that fiber optics and some computer circuit boards could have been reverse engineered from some
Right, because it
artifacts
wasn't
from Roswell itself,
right,
from that
'cause
specific
Roswell,
crash.
and then like a few years later, the transistor came out.
Right. Well, so if you take the timeline, 1947, Roswell crash, there's some witnesses say that they think an alien artifact was delivered to the AT&T Bell Labs in New Jersey around 1951.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, 6 months later, they unveiled to the world the first ever transistor. So did they reverse engineer some alien technology?
Mm-hmm.
But just in talking about just the existence of UFOs, many people try to debunk UFO sightings by saying it's a weather balloon or it's a military jet or a man-made thing that you're just not understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at some of these accounts from military guys, Navy jet fighters, astronauts, who are well versed in technology of spacecraft, aerocraft, and they're seeing the performance and the movements of these crafts. It's pretty credible witness that they can attest that this is not human made. So one guy in particular is Gordon Cooper. He's a well-renowned astronaut, and in 1951 he actually had multiple sightings. He had some sightings in Germany where he and some other military guys saw some metallic saucer-looking things flying there. They actually took up some jets to go and look and follow them. And this is what I'm talking about, where he is in the air alongside some of these UFOs, and he's watching them move, and he can tell that the way they're moving is not any man-made technology that is known to the U.S. military and not any.
Right, like the craft that they saw didn't conform to like aerodynamics.
Well, it was just actually the rate and speed at which it would move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Like if it's going in a straight line, and all of a sudden it makes like a right,
and then
a turn at a right angle.
And a lot of accounts then would say when they would get too close to these crafts, they would actually just go straight up and just disappear. And that these guys are thinking, I'd love to fly this jet or whatever it is, this craft, but I will never survive the G-forces.
Right.
So another bit of evidence that some of these military guys are looking at the movements of these crafts, is that humans, as we know it, will probably not be able to survive the back and forth and the G-forces and the quick stops that these crafts are making.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we're assuming that we know everything about this technology. I mean, it's possible the aliens or the pilots of these crafts could have such advanced technology that as they could be as fragile as we are, but have some high technology to absorb, withstand, or deal with this the G-forces.
Right.
And maybe possibly even time travel. I mean, the rabbit hole is deep with this one. When you start thinking about the evidence of in the existence of aliens and where they came from, other galaxies. I mean, how far do you want to take this? It goes on.
Yeah, it's I mean the aliens, do they exist? That's been Roswell is really what kind of threw that out there, because there was this unknown craft that crashed, and then days later it's like, oh, it was a weather balloon, and it just that kind of. And then you have it seems like, yeah, okay, this is the tinfoil hat kind of crazy thing. But then you look at what some of what you're saying is, you look into what some of these experts are saying. It's like there's something I've seen stuff, and they're not just some crazy backwoods hick sitting on his boat drinking.
No, these are actual pilots following these things.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there's been. We're talking about sightings from the 50s, but there have been sightings by military pilots in Mexico in the early 2000s, by a military jet in 2015.
Right.
He actually has something on camera following it. He says it looked like it was Tic Tac shape. I guess it was featured on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you ask yourself, why wasn't the U.S. government more truthful or more unveiling about the events at Roswell? Why is Area 51 closed off? But take yourselves back to 1947. Let's say an alien craft does crash, and there are alien technologies, or there are crafts that are hypersonic, whatever. We just finished World War II, which came after World War I. We were discussing pre-show about the horror of World War I rolling right into World War II. And so I'm thinking that the last thing they really wanted to unveil to the world is the existence of these unimaginable technologies, unimaginable weaponry or crafts.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, of course, you would think the U.S. military probably wants to get first crack at reverse engineering some of these things. And to the best of our knowledge, that is exactly what they had done. They, the top generals, the top brass, the president at the time, put a nice bow around the craft, around Roswell's site. I'm guessing the reason why Area 51 is at Roswell is because they probably have some feelings about not wanting to move some things that may have crashed. I don't know. What do you think? Why wouldn't they relocate? Why wouldn't they Why wouldn't they relocate it? Maybe there's
I always thought that
something glowing there they didn't want to touch.
I always thought Area 51 was in Nevada, the Nellis facility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least, I mean, maybe that could be.
Oh no, you're right. I may have my locations confused, but
Yeah. But I mean, let me ask you real fast: was Roswell like your inciting incident to get you like into like the whole UFO thing?
Well, if you're asking me if I have like a particular experience with it,
well, I just mean in general. Was that like one of the first?
Well, no,
things?
I mean, I have an actual story.
Okay.
When I was in college,
Mm-hmm.
a few of us were sitting in a living room. It was the mid '90s, and we were at UC Santa Barbara.
Mm.
This particular house is right on the beach, right on the cliff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of a sliding glass window, all you can see is just Pacific Ocean, and it was nighttime, so it was just a big, dark abyss of ocean. So there's a few of us just chit-chatting in the living room, and we all noticed that there was a green glow coming from the window, and then all of us looked, and we see a glowing green ball hovering right over the ocean. And so the three of us are captivated. We're looking at it, and we see it. It's hovering over the ocean, and it does this kind of thing. It goes right to left, right up, and then down. For the camera, it was kind of went like a here, straight up, back, and then down.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it went straight up and disappeared.
Mm.
And then at that point, the three of us ran outside to the patio and looked up to the sky in a very, very clear sky with no clouds in the sky. We could not see a trace of this thing.
Mm.
It had completely disappeared. And at that point, we all kind of looked at each other to confirm that we had all seen the same event.
Mm-hmm.
And then we discussed, how it couldn't possibly be something man-made because we've never seen anything move like that. It moved so fast, stopped so fast, moved again so quickly, stopped so quickly, and then just shot straight up and disappeared.
Mm.
I don't know if it didn't really freak me out too much, but it sort of confirmed the existence of. And from that point on, if anyone ever asked me, do you believe in UFOs? Or I would obviously say yes, but why would they be interested in us? Where are they from? I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Okay, so that was the thing that got you into UFOs.
Well, I mean, I can personally say that I've seen something that I can't explain that is not explained by U.S. military, and I don't think if a human being was in that craft, they would survive the movements that it made.
Right.
And glowing green ball. It's actually a pretty common sighting.
Actually, yeah, that's actually true. Even in history, because even what was it in Christopher Columbus's logs when he was coming, making the journey over, he noted glowing orbs in the sky.
Yeah,
just above the water.
So yeah, it was really. I'm glad I wasn't. I'm glad I didn't see it alone because I'm glad that there were other people there.
Right.
Confirmed that we saw the same thing.
Because I know like there's a lot of the when one of the common things that people throw out there, like when the B-52 bomber was being developed and tested, people are saying like, oh, it's a UFO, and it's like, well, they actually like found it was the B-52 bomber, but then there's also that, but it also doesn't move like that. And you hear about all these different like stuff that's like that doesn't move like any plane that we have, even like
if you saw the stealth fighter. And you never knew that we had the stealth fighter, and you didn't know about it, and you didn't know that it was shaped like a bat,
You know, like
and
a
you had
wing.
seen it fly over the sky, I would think it was a UFO.
Yeah, no, and understandably so. Like why people
Right.
thought that.
Only by the shape,
Right.
and the fact I didn't know that it existed in our files.
Right.
But that stealth fighter of 2019, the stealth fighter of 2020, could never move like what I saw the green ball do.
Yeah, even
I don't think
the
a human
technology.
And not
being
even like
body could-
contemporary,
I
not
don't
even
think a human
contemporary
being's body could-
aircraft could move like that.
Right. It was just mind blowing, actually. So you have to wonder. So the really interesting thing to me is how if the government did have access or possession of alien technologies through crash crafts. I want to know what technologies were reverse engineered. And I mean, I'm sure we have some smart people in the world, and they invented some things. But did we get some hints? Did we get some clues dropped to us? Did we have a piece of a puzzle, and were we able to reverse engineer it? I mean, Robert and I were talking about something. I've heard about the microchip. It took about 20 years to figure out how the microchip really worked, but it had been created. So how is something created, but it doesn't we don't really know how it works?
Oh.
Well, I mean, so we're getting into conspiracy theories here, but I mean, it's been discussed that fiber optics, some computer
Velcro.
chips, circuit boards. Yeah.
Well, then there's like even you look back in the past too, where I mean, one of the common ones with Egypt. A lot of people think that they've started to figure out how they were creating like the pyramids of Giza and like a lot of like their architectural wonders, and like how it's like within like several degrees. I mean, it's like without all the common nice technology that we have today.
Yeah, like advanced computing ability, and they're able to make the alignment of the pyramids like exact to like the Orion belt, or or make it so like once a year like the sun comes through like a certain part of, like the like a window through a pyramid to hit like exact and light up an entire room.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that takes some pretty and I think the ancients were a hell of a lot smarter than we give them credit for. I think they're smarter than us.
Yeah.
But it also maybe like they had kind of like the same stuff that you're talking about, where it's like maybe they encountered something and they got hints.
Right.
Because there was a lot of time a lot of the ancients were developing technology, and for it, it kind of just all went away for a while. Like they call it the Dark Ages. I mean, it wasn't really a Dark Ages. There was stuff going on, but a lot of like the old.
Well, this might have been pre-flood, right?
No, this is within like the last like couple thousand years,
right?
Because after the Library of Alexandria burned down,
right,
there was a lot of like notes and technology and stuff that like was kind of lost. And that's why you kind of went through the Middle Ages, and not the stuff that wasn't happening. There was a lot of thought and deep thought that was going around, but it wasn't until like 1500 something that a lot of this stuff was starting to get rediscovered.
Right.
And that's almost like 500, 600, 700 years.
Right. I think the Dark Ages don't get a lot of credit, because I think that was a time when a lot of knowledge was being like found and preserved, and the Renaissance gets a lot of the credit for rediscovering or like the rebirth of civilization. But I think the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages were really important or instrumental.
Very, very
instrumental, because it was the monasteries, it was the cloister, it was like the monastic groups that
was
like
the first InfoWars.
Yeah.
There was a battle for power over
That's your knowledge. That's right.
The poor were they wanted to keep them illiterate. Don't let them read books. Don't let them learn.
That was one of the problems that's why we have Protestantism, one of the reasons.
But to quickly go back to Egypt, you're aware of the Sumerians, the culture that existed before the Egyptians, right? Now, I read a book one time that showed me that the Sumerians they did a lot of things with clay tablets. That's how they wrote things. They would
Or in the cuneiform.
Yeah, the cuneiform tablets.
They would make cuneiform and they'd roll them out in clay. I'd seen pictures of tablets that had actual images of our existing solar system as we know it, with the sun at the center and the actual correct amount of planets, except for this one extra planet out here hanging out at NIMBY or something like that, in retro orbit. So besides that, they had all the other planets and their relative locations kind of mapped out. So you have to think how the hell
they know that?
Yeah, how do they know that? So, and then some other mathematical things. And the Middle East was known for being really sharp with mathematics. For
the science and mathematics, they were, up until Islam.
Well, it's in their DNA. Yeah. It's in their DNA to this day. I know a lot of students that come from that part of the world to go to CSUN to study engineering,
right?
Specifically engineering. So.
Well, then you even have when the wise men that came to they were looking for Egypt. They were astrologers and they had tracked. They believed in the prophecy, and they tracked when this star or whatever hits this point, this is when that we know where this event's going to take place, and they went and visited that. That's crazy.
I also want to throw out the possibility that these people had a lot of time on their hands.
That's also true.
Yeah. and maybe not a whole lot to do, but really, maybe there's some people that just all they would do is look up and you take records and you pass them down.
Right.
I know that
they could have come from money too, especially since if.
What do you think of the first star charts too, and the sailing? How did Christopher Columbus get here? He didn't have a
was it the astrolabe and all that stuff? It was
navigation by stars, and North Star, and some of these other instruments. You're taking a risk on the middle of the ocean.
Like I said, they took a lot more risks because you had to. But I really believe that a lot of these guys were a hell of a lot smarter than even some of our smart guys today.
No, absolutely. These people were smart enough. Like I said, they were looking at the sky, but they looked at the sky long enough to be able to tell what was moving and what wasn't moving, and what were moving at different rates, because planets move, stars don't.
Yeah, the stars are fixed, planets move.
Right. So then then they started mapping these things out, and
it's just fascinating. But yeah, like you said, maybe there was kind of hints that were thrown at them, if there's possibility of aliens coming down and showing them things, or who knows what's going on.
Well,
and based off what you're talking about, I've flip-flopped a bunch of times. Do they exist? Don't they exist? I'm I don't know.
We're gonna go down a whole other rabbit hole, because what I trip on is from space you see Earth as a beautiful green and blue ball of life at this amazing perfect equilibrium. So you're an alien flying through space. Whoa, what is that? Let's check that out. It's obviously attractive, but to get more to my point, what I am fascinated by is the delicacy of our own planet, our own environment, our own habitat, our own atmosphere, and that we are able to live, and it just keeps in this stoic state like that. And to me, that is absolutely fascinating. And then we're going to go down a crazy rabbit hole right now, because then if you talk about the existence of aliens, and if you believe in God, are aliens in God's world, and how does that play out? And I don't even want to touch it, but it's something
I've wrestled with.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, me too.
And I think they could both exist in different ways. I would never question God, so maybe we'll find out one day.
I certainly hope so. To be honest,
that'd be kind of cool. It'd be like.
I always. I think
there's enough love to go around,
right? And because an infinite being is probably capable of infinite love. But yeah, I always wondered, maybe the reason why space is so vast and why we don't really run into other aliens is that was on purpose.
Sure.
God created us in this part of the universe, and then He created aliens in another part of the universe.
It's our block.
Yeah,
but aren't there some incidences even through the Bible of possible crafts or visitations from
then
glowing beings that are maybe labeled as angels
wheel within wheels.
Sure. Not saying that they're aliens visited people in the Bible, but
what we would consider.
What are angels? What are aliens? What are glowing people? What are prophets? does it have to be separate, or can it all be under God's world? I'm one that believes that God is infinitely what's the word, omnipotent.
Yeah, he's omnipotent.
He's omnipresent. So it's all under his thing.
Yeah,
it's his game. If you want, whatever's.
It's definitely a fascinating thought experiment. Like that,
definitely.
Yeah, and I would.
I don't want to delve into heresy, but go ahead.
No. Because we've had on Nocturnal Transmissions, we've definitely had some Bible discussions, and actually even on this show, we've had some interesting Bible discussions, and obviously that's something that really does intrigue me. And even as a Bible scholar, I wonder, we've been, gone to the moon, maybe, depending on
depending on who you ask.
Maybe the Chinese have.
Yeah. Now we're we've set stuff out on Mars. We've had other little satellites going to, see other planets.
Yeah.
And we haven't necessarily discovered life on those planets, and maybe in our universe we won't, but
right.
we've detected other universes, other planets, and you wonder if there's something where we find another universe that's kind of similar to how our universe is set up. Would we find a planet that is sustainable for life? If there's life on that planet, who the hell knows? It's very interesting, and I
think that happens, we'll all be dust.
I mean, for the human imagination. Whether it's, whether God's playing with us and we're having conversations, or we're just imagining things. It's a fascinating thing, and it's great to be alive.
Yeah. The fact that we're alive, that we have there's people that have questioned, are we anything? And
am I just a brain in a jar?
Yeah,
the brain in a jar. You can't dispute it because you can't prove it.
Right. But no,
are we the dream, or are we the dreamer?
Sure.
Well, there's even people
about to wake up now.
There's even people who think that the dream itself is when we go and we dream, is that a whole nother universe that we're traveling to?
Right. Am I responsible for things I do in my dream?
Yeah.
The dream police? Or is that a real
thing?
I like that reference.
Yeah.
What is it? Sting and the police?
Yeah.
Alien life, alien technology. There's people in power that have control of the secrets. So, you can beat your head to the wall forever, but ask yourself, the U.S. from 1950 to 1990s, 2000 shot up in technology incredibly. Computers,
right?
Cellular technology, transmission. All kinds of military stuff. Did we invent it all, or did we reverse engineer some of it? We probably won't know for a long time.
Probably not.
Probably.
Yeah. Will the aliens save us? I don't know.
Who knows?
There's all kinds of theories, man. I know we're talking about it. There's crazy theories I've heard about that the aliens came here one time and created some sort of hybrid species to mine gold that they needed for their spacecrafts, because gold actually protects from solar radiation and other radiation in outer space. And to this day, that the space shuttle has a lining of gold on the windows or something like that, because it.
Or something, or the visors on the astronauts' EVA suits.
Yeah. So,
interesting.
And if you want to get into gold, why is gold so valuable? The power of gold through all the ancient cultures. And is there a connection between gold and aliens? Is it a unique mineral that is sought after? I wonder about the other aliens. We have metal alloys. What kind of other alloys and fusions have we discovered from alien technology?
Yeah, that's it's like I said, it's an interesting thought.
People were saying that Hitler was really into. Apparently there was some crash in 1939 in the Black Forest of Germany, and apparently the Nazis grabbed his craft, reverse engineered some stuff, and possibly had some military base in Antarctica. I don't know.
Yeah, it's we were talking.
Robert, you want to take it away with the Hitler?
Well, this is where it kind of leaks into my conspiracy theory, but it's and we say conspiracy theory, but to be honest, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, I think, is very plausible, just based off of evidence
Conspiracy
that's available.
fact.
Yeah, just based off of like it's nothing that we can be 100% proven,
Right.
but there's enough evidence around it where I think questions should be had, and it leaves enough doubt.
Right. No, I don't think the three of us have been vaccinated, so
Yeah.
vaccinated with an F, people.
Oh.
Yeah. So
We're not immune to facts.
Yeah, these are just
We're not
likely
immune to
scenarios.
facts.
These are conspiracy theories. They're likely scenarios.
I would agree with that, and mine I would definitely agree with this.
Take it away.
So mine is Adolf Hitler did not die in 1945.
What?
He did not commit suicide in that bunker in 1945 with Eva Braun. And I'm gonna first of all, there's a lot of I don't know if you guys have seen the documentary series Hunting Hitler. It was on the History Channel for 3 seasons, and the evidence that those guys uncovered lead me to believe that maybe he did not die there. And you look at Adolf Hitler himself, kind of, people call him a crazy person, a madman, just, evil. I would say probably more of evil genius.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he was completely crazy. I just think he was an evil guy.
No. He was not unintelligent.
No, he was very intelligent.
But it wasn't for good.
Yeah. And so he's coming off of World War. What we're talking about. He's coming off of World War One.
He's a veteran with PTSD.
He sees the power vacuum in Germany, and it's like, I want to restore. I want to come to power, and but there's nothing going on in Germany. I'm gonna take power there and restore it and try to dominate the world.
Right.
And
yeah, because he was Austrian, right?
Yeah, he wasn't a German. He was an Austrian. There's all sorts of his history is very fascinating. By the way,
possibly Jewish.
Possibly, yeah. But it's it's kind of, he found a way to seize power. He did it kind of through some of the tactics we're trying to see from the left today. But hey, I'm not going to go down that road.
Weren't they a socialist party, the Nazis?
Yeah, they're leftists. But in Europe, that's kind of like a right wing kind of thing. In European politics, yeah, he's right wing. But how we would see it in America, in the United States of America, he's a leftist.
Right.
Yeah.
You just turn the words around, it used to be Democrat, socialist, and now it's
it's
or the other way around, socialist, Democrat. I don't know.
Yeah, that in the Communist Party and from the Russian Revolution, it's not
they
that
were called
far
the
off.
Socialist Democrats.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that
And
far
now they
off.
call them
Democratic Socialists.
So colored people called
And
color.
okay, and sorry, a little bit of a rabbit trail. So the thing is, during World War One, as a way to Germany was looking for a way to overcome Russia in the Eastern Front, and they're like, okay, well, maybe if we can't defeat them militarily, it was more of why, because they were suffering a lot of losses as well, and so they thought by kind of attacking them in a more of a sociological way, they did that. And because Vladimir Lenin was in exile in Germany at the time.
Well, yeah, they sent him back. They to get back at Russia.
Yeah, and in about 19, it wasn't until about 1917 or 18, towards the end of the war, that because Lenin had been in exile in Germany or German territory for a little while. They on a secret train, they sent him back to Russia as a way to eliminate them as a power, and that's how the Russian Revolution started.
Yeah, they sent Lenin
that's
to be
fucked
a
up.
subversive.
Yeah, for the Bolshevik Revolution.
Yeah, and that's how they eliminated. I mean, it took place after World War One, but I mean, in a way, Germany kind of won doing that. I mean, they changed a whole country.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Man, it's always the Germans.
just,
It's always the Germans messing.
that's man.
Anyway,
Okay.
but
So
back to your theory.
back to what I'm saying is, so
But Hitler was a soldier in World War I, wasn't he?
yeah, he was a soldier
this guy had fought and seen blood.
Yeah,
and
he's seen the
death.
he's seen the horrors of the trenches and mustard gas and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
He was
and he
ready to
saw
go
like
another
the
round, huh?
yeah. It was just and I don't know if I don't think he fought for Germany. I think he fought for the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was closely connected with Germany.
They were allies,
But
so
they were allies, and because of the incompetence of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Germany kind of took over the generalship of that army, and it just so he saw like a lot of the incompetence, and
Right, yeah, he had a lot of grievances with the way militaries were run.
Yeah, he hated,
soldiers were being treated.
he hated the Kaiser.
Yeah,
And kind of, and like I said, at the end of it, he seized power. So you see that about him, like he sees this opportunity, and then at the end, like when the war is kind of like coming to an end, he has Russia coming in from the Eastern Front. He has the British and the Allied units coming from the West. They're closing in on him, but there's a period of time. There's a couple of days before that what we see is the him committing suicide in the bunker. There were some high-end Germans that did kill themselves and their families, kind of murder suicides. But Hitler, because I think he saw, call him crazy, call him evil, whatever you want to call him, he was not going to just give it up all so easily. So there were in a lot of high-ranking German. There were several ways that they had escape plans. Is kind of like retreat and fight another day. And in this documentary series, they found all like the different routes that they could have possibly been taken. That they kind of led where the evidence took them. They went and they found out like what were the ways that people escaped.
Right, because the Nazis were even in parts of Africa. So
they were in Africa. Yeah,
taken off from Africa and gone.
They're all over the world.
So they discovered
where they could have left and where they had bases from. Anywhere.
Yeah, in Berlin, they found all these underground escape tunnels that were used by Hitler that kind of exited out in a whole bunch of different areas. That there was one way where they one of the main, I can't remember what the road's name is, but there was a road where that bunker was that you shear down the light post, which they did, where you could there was a time where they kind of kept the enemies at bay, where people could have taken off within a couple days time. You had all the underground tunnels that exited around other places where they exited, no one was fighting and defending, so they could have easily escaped. You have a lot of them escaped to other parts of Europe, like they went up north to like Norway and the Scandinavian areas that they had occupied. And found a way. They had some U-boats in certain cities that they found out. They had friends in like Spain. The leader of Spain was friends. They were neutral during the war, but they were friends to Germany at the time, and had a whole port area where they had U-boats and stuff where people could get out. The Vatican at the time was also, because with the ties to Italy, they were connected to Germany, and they were actually
Mussolini.
Yeah, they were actually giving new identities to a lot of these high-ranking Germans, so that they would have new identities. They could just pass customs, do all this stuff, and they would escape.
Italian passports, Italian names, maybe?
Yeah, like they would be baptized with new names, and they have you see the documentation of where these guys they changed their names, were baptized in that new name, and were able to circumvent all the customs, because obviously like the Allies and the Russia, they were looking for these
So official
people.
government papers straight from the top.
And and this is documented evidence that they did this.
Wow.
And then they found, like, they looked at where all these like tunnels left, and there was a couple ways that Hitler could have escaped. And one other thing too that I always question is, because they always say, oh, it's we found they had his body, they saw his dead body, all that stuff. Well, that wasn't us that found his body. That was the Soviets that found his body, and they quote unquote held his body for years. And after for a number of years, until the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union fell, when they finally were able to get a chance to look at his body, it wasn't him. It was
they had it preserved.
They had they had the skeleton and all that stuff. Yeah, they had it. Yeah, I mean, you saw what they did with like Lenin and like Stalin.
Right.
So they
did that same. They embalmed them really good. Okay.
Real good.
But it wasn't him.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
somebody else.
Yeah, and I will say this: the one thing they did track down Eva Braun's descendants, who had changed their name, and they're like, when they would you be willing to take a DNA test to see if like you match up with like one of these bodies?
Right. Yeah, I was gonna ask you. They just
and like
his family, or
so they Eva Braun's family is like, we want nothing to do with this. Like, please leave us alone. We've changed our names. We don't want to have anything to do with this. Like, and to be honest, which was good of them. They respected that, and which is kind of like, it sucks because you want to know, but the it's like, but they respected that, and
it's kind of hard to.
But that still wouldn't prove that Hitler
them.
was.
No, but because I think she died. Hitler probably killed her, but I don't think he I think killed her and like kind of took off and like left
it's not. Hitler could have had a body double, and they could have gotten Eva Braun there. Because to have the Allied forces think that Hitler was dead because Eva Braun's there, so that must be Hitler's body.
Well, that's the other thing too, because that bunker and that stuff was bombed too. Like the bodies were not recognized either. They were kind of burned.
They're unrecognizable.
Yeah, they were burned.
So there's no way to tell anything about.
Right, and so that's where like it throws up some red flags for anybody. You would think it's like, well, we didn't see it, we don't know, and like they're not recognizable.
Yeah.
Because there was one of the other high-ranking Nazis killed his whole family, killed himself, and then they had someone burn them. Kind of the same thing. So it's kind of like, maybe Hitler used that as a way to like, well, we're gonna do the same thing,
stage it, and
little smoke and mirrors, like, oh, you can't prosecute a dead man.
So one thing that who was the guy that they did find in South America, and they actually found him, some 40 or 50 years later. I cannot remember his name. Yeah. But it was one of they found him alive. One of the guy. Yeah, they found him alive. He was one of the guys, one of Hitler's top guys that they found, but they're like. So they knew that he had gone there. So there was some sort of Nazi presence there. It's like, oh, well, maybe it's just one guy that was found a way to escape. But through this documentary, through the search that they did, they found it's like, holy shit! A lot of them, there are fortifications, German fortifications.
Sure.
There are bunkers all over the place, underground tunnels, just like there was in Berlin and Germany. Oh. They found documentation. They found there's a lot of the dictators at that time were friendly to the Nazis and kind of held them as in cover.
Sure.
They found
the Axis.
Well, the thing is, it still to this day, there are people who are scared to share anything. It's like, oh no, I don't want to talk about like the Germans. Like they're like. We don't want to be killed. We're not going to talk about it.
Damn.
And it was like they had to like really find. They're like, there was people here. Don't want to talk about it. Leave me alone. Get the hell away from me, kind of thing.
Sure.
And it's like where there was a guy that's like, I can't talk to you here. Meet me in the middle of the jungle, like in the middle of the night, so that no one knows that I'm here. Did
the guy show up?
Yeah, the guy showed up. And then they found so there's that. Well, how did Hitler, so some of the top brass got there. There was one way where through the Vatican, where they had their names changed. There was that way. Some of them escaped to Scandinavia through they found like the some of the nuclear technology they were working on, like some of the bunkers that they were developing, heavy water technology for nuclear bombs, which they were doing before we started doing that. That's a whole nother scary thing, scary thought. You have Spain. They had a whole port in Spain where a lot of U-boats were held that they were escaping to, and there was and they had like through the Pacific, they had a lot of like U-boats and like some carriers that were heading down towards South America. That was possible that so there was several avenues of escape that they took. And then you go to South America and you find all these things where it wasn't just some like a low-ranking Nazi, like one or two people that escaped. They had built like all these fortifications. They had all this special housing, all this stuff that was built there that they found the ruins of from late 40s, early 50s, showing that someone of high value was there.
Sure.
Could have been Hitler. More might have been. And they found. They found a microfilm that was like of his like manifesto down there, like his will and testament of like what he wanted to the Third Reich fell, but like what he wanted to see to continue with the Nazi Party, which is like who else but like possibly Hitler himself was carrying that. Why would he have who else would have a microfilm of that?
That's
maybe a messenger, but more than likely that's held.
That sounds like very personal effects.
That's something like you carry close to the vest.
Yeah, they found the microfilm of that. That's where like all this stuff, you see all this stuff add up, and it's like and there's even like a town that they found in I forget which country in South America, which is like now it's turned into this like German tourist town. Like it's complete. It looks like a like if you went there and you didn't know you were in South America, you just like you were blindfolded and thrown there.
It's like it looks like a little slice of Bavaria.
Sure. Yeah, it looks like a German town.
Like architecture, everything. You think they would kind of like hide themselves and like adapt to like some of like the South American architecture? No,
they like it looks like the Alps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's parts where it's like, oh no, you can't go there. And like they have electric fencing, they have all this stuff that's like fortifying stuff away. They have all these secret areas. There's that. They found similar to the the concentration camps. They found that down there in South America that the Germans had built, where they were doing human experimentations, and they actually had some people that had been experimented on that were talking, that they were able to talk to and interview.
Are these local type people? I mean,
there were
indigenous type people.
Natives that were they were doing human experiments on. The guys that were doing the human experimentation, they had that all going on. And they found plans too of like where they were going to try to bomb New York City. Like there was another like with nuclear bombs.
Well, what country are we talking about here?
So there was Chile, there was Argentina, there was like Peru.
Sure.
Like it was all over South America.
Well, it's interesting. I know Argentina does have a history of having a lot of Italians that migrated to Argentina. Kind of a part of their cultural background, so it makes sense. You have the connection between Mussolini and Hitler and the Vatican and Italy.
Yeah, now it is
and immigration to Argentina. Possibly, you have to have. Because I was going to ask you, don't you think that the government
of the land that is holding these Nazis or these refugees or these people in exile.
Right.
Don't they have to be aware? Aren't they in cooperation with? I mean, so you would think that maybe the government of Argentina is maybe working with the government of Italy, or
that's the other thing too, that like because a lot of this stuff they had sent people to Hitler had sent a lot of these people over to that region in the 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, so like certain stuff had been set up prior to that. So there was definitely a Nazi presence in South America that was more of kind of like a covert thing that they were doing. But which to me makes sense that that was always kind of like Hitler had a contingency plan after contingency plan after contingency plan. And like they also found like medicine, because he had what they believe is Crohn's disease,
right?
So, and they were actually finding like medicine bottles for stuff that he was taking to, kind of control the symptoms at least.
What's Crohn's disease? Just really quick.
It's like intestinal.
It's like IBS.
Inflammation of the intestine. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like there was that, and so like they had found that like it was more the U-boat, like him taking a U-boat directly down there, which is how some people escaped down there. That probably wasn't the route that he took, but it was more of there was a way that they found like where like seaplanes were being taken, and like they had U-boats throughout the Pacific that they were like landing at, resupplying, flying a little bit longer, resupplying again.
Because he probably couldn't handle it, like maybe the
right, he couldn't.
Of a submarine
Exactly. And obviously those seaplanes wouldn't have been able to like go the whole route directly there. So they had U-boats that were, because they found the U-boats,
kind of
and they found U-boats over there, and then they found that damn seaplane, some of the seaplanes that they found in the ocean, like because they once like they escaped, they burned all that stuff, sunk it, and they found all that stuff down there.
Do you think the Allied have no idea that Hitler went there? Well, or do you think that is there any evidence that the Allied maybe knew and let it happen because just let the war end? And if he's going to go there, and I mean, were we completely unaware?
Right, and that's where that's kind of like where this also kind of connects with what you're talking about. It's post-war, and kind of like they when a lot of those documents were declassified back in 2014, and moving forward, Donald Trump also declassified a bunch of stuff. They found like that was kind of all the documents that they were searching through, and they were looking at all this stuff, and they found like, oh wait, they were still searching for Adolf Hitler, and they found him. There was stuff that I could not find. I had seen videos of that they were looking at the documents, showing what was on there, and that actually we may have been for the rest of the public. Yeah, like the war's over. Right. We have a new threat in the Soviet Union. We have to focus on them. Let's just let this thing die. But they were also they also had found that like may have been using, because Adolf Hitler hated the communists, like he hated Russia,
right?
And so there was some stuff where like we had found him, and we were actually using him as an ally against Russia,
right, sure, right.
And I can't find that again. I know I've seen it, I saw it. And now,
the United States was allied with Hitler.
Well, yeah, in his time, like
before the war.
Yeah, like because there was talks like he may have died
leveraging
in, like,
against Russia.
Like late 50s, early 60s. So he's dead.
That's
but
like Hellboy shit.
Yeah. I mean,
so basically, the Allied didn't really buy at the time. Didn't buy.
No, they were still.
We didn't believe from Russia.
They were still like
dead. So
it wasn't just us. It was a lot of people were searching for him and searching for the leftover Nazis.
We didn't buy the narrative from the Russians that they got his body and he was dead.
Right. So they didn't buy it either.
Right.
Yeah, because why would we believe? Why would we believe the Soviets for anything? They're notorious liars.
But as far as the public goes, the U.S. military war is over. Everybody,
I think, and see it, and I understand that. Like, I understand, like, at that time, it's like we fought 2 world wars within a 30-year span. Let's let this thing just end.
Well, the world was psychologically traumatized.
Yeah.
At the end of World War II, with what happened to
in the concentration camps, I mean, the millions and millions of people that have died.
All the human experiments and all that shit.
The world was psychologically traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
You have the emergence of the philosophical thought of existentialism, where there's no real truth but death, and there's nothing out there. And you got the dawn of atheism, where people just felt like they've just been abandoned by God.
Because the generation
awful.
Yeah, the generations after World War I and II, World War I killed off a whole generation of men. It actually eliminated men from whole villages in Europe. And so that ended that. Then you have World War I, where all that's it's like happening again, and the generation right after that, it's kind of this what you're talking about, like that.
Yeah,
is there any truth?
This is a real awful point of discussion, but some people have raised the fact that in Germany at the time that every German boy was going to fight the war, but certain religions were pacifist religions.
Right.
And those members of those religions maybe didn't participate in the wars. And why does my son have to die, but your son gets to stay home and run the shop? So you can see how Hitler had a lot of ammunition to work with as far as anger and resent amongst the German peoples. First, their economy had been broken by World War I. And they were it was an opportunity to seize power and an angry mob. I don't think people to this day really understand the phenomenon of the rise of Nazi Germany. As a nation as a whole.
And I think that this is
maybe you start looking to radical Islam in Iran. Looks a lot like Nazi Germany.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
It's like chanting and
that's why I think it's so important that to study history and to study why this stuff happens, because otherwise, the cliche is that if you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well,
Absolutely.
Damned if it isn't true.
And people get in trouble for trying to raise issues like that. Well, anyways, there's a lot of resurgence of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia going head to head, and it seems like some of those things we learned from years before had forgotten.
Yeah, definitely.
But you get in trouble for saying things like that. It's a very sensitive world now.
But yeah, but what I'm saying is I think there's enough strong evidence to show that just based off of his ideology, his thought process, the evidence available to us that Hitler did not die in 1945.
It's more likely that he didn't.
Yeah,
because to die in a bunker or suicide like that doesn't really add up to a guy that had such a repertoire of planning and such a
it doesn't match with the pattern.
Genius.
It doesn't match with the pattern of his constant having plans upon plans upon plans. Every sort of contingency, having that showing that.
It would be short-sighted of him.
Facade of having that facade of being this mastermind or being someone who's someone to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and the fact that they found his will about what he wanted for the continuation of the Nazi regime, and it's but then they found it wasn't just a copy. It was essentially the original
manuscript. It was the manuscript,
the negative.
The negative. And it's who else is going to carry that but him?
And look at the loyalty that he created. I mean, whatever it was based on, some kind of sick theology or whatever it is, he had the loyalty of his soldiers and his Nazi party that makes perfect sense that a mechanism would be in place that loyal soldiers would carry out to the bitter end to get him wherever he wanted to go.
Yeah.
I mean, the stories he told about Nazi soldiers committing suicide and killing their entire families to die of this crazy honor that they've created under this Nazism, that it makes perfect sense that Hitler would have the support, the human support, the loyalty of the soldiers, and the actual logistics to make it work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally believable.
Yeah, and that's why I was to me, it's it just raised enough doubt for me. Where it was like, I can see where he didn't die.
I think he probably got out of Germany a long time before we.
Well, like I said,
much sooner before we even think he did.
Right.
And he saw that how dangerous it was. He's like, you know what? Maybe I'll get out of here and negotiate. Navigate this thing from afar.
Yeah, and that's also a possibility too.
And maybe I'll have some body doubles.
And that's
some guys with a mustache and a little slick haircut.
That's also a strong possibility. It's but yeah, just fascinating to think about, like how just the evidence that they found is like, it's kind of really scary to think that it, what could have happened.
Well, at that time,
what did happen too,
and then even at that time, it's not that long ago. I mean, humans had capabilities to travel underwater across oceans in a relatively short amount of time. So he could have fled Europe and made it to anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
true.
Antarctica. Who knows? That's another rumor.
That's true. That.
Well, I'm going to pass it off to you, Andy, and
maybe Hitler went to the moon.
Oh yeah, the secret Nazi moon bases.
Yeah, on the dark side.
I think there was a movie.
And the Chinese bought them, I think, recently.
Yeah.
Well, we do know that the Nazi, there were Nazi scientists that were requisitioned for like the rocket programs and space
NASA.
programs.
Oh yeah, I mean the Russians got some, we got some.
Yeah.
Apparently the Russians got the ones that can do propulsion, and we got the ones for guidance.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Americans apparently really excelled in the guided missile technology, but the Russians were able to lift payload more than we could.
Is that why
because they got those scientists and we got these scientists?
Right. Is that why they reached space before us?
Yeah, from German technology, not Russian.
Right. But that was the reason why they were
propulsion scientists.
Right, and that was the reason why they were able to get to space before the U.S. and to get like a satellite into orbit.
Sputnik.
Yeah.
But we had apparently more technology for guidance and that kind of thing, so we're more accurate. Just couldn't lift as much.
Yeah. It's like and one of them was like a real evil guy who would like string up Jews for like, whoever the slowest working one gets killed that day.
That's just awful even thinking about those things.
It freaks me out like thinking about that.
I've seen some documentaries, and like the real sad thing is how a human can adapt. The ability to adapt of a human goes all the way to a point where you can adapt to such an evil situation because you're trying to really survive yourself.
Right.
I mean, if you're a Nazi and you want to go and protest, you're probably going to end up in the ditch as well.
Yeah.
So it's just
man, it's crazy to think about.
And then you want to talk about the Hitler Youth. They got them going at age 12, take them to the camps, teach them sports, and then ease them into the killing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where you have like
small
your
animals, and then
that's the common like
shooting rifles and
story with like George Soros and stuff too. He was part of that.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Word. Well, speaking of secret Nazis,
well, I mean. Yeah, we don't want to die.
By the way,
Soros' list is much longer than
right. So here's the thing: if none of us want to commit suicide, by the way, if we
none of us here will ever kill ourselves.
It is Saturday, March 23 on the phone here, 9:03.
Yeah, none of us want to commit suicide.
We're all Christians. We all believe if we commit suicide, we're going to hell. And we don't want to go to hell.
We will never kill ourselves, especially with two different caliber bullets.
So if that happens to us, something someone
investigate,
took us out.
Look into it, avenge my death. But anyways,
and finish the licorice for us.
Yeah,
don't let it go to waste. Yeah.
Okay.
Did we go to the moon?
Well, that's the thing here.
Is the moon flat?
Is the moon even real?
I mean, we only see the same side.
Right, exactly. We only see one side. It could just, it could just be an elaborate green screen and it's just painted on.
There's a rabbit up there.
Yeah. Yes. Well, if you haven't been able to figure it out, my conspiracy theory is the moon landing and how we might not have landed on the moon. I'm not fully invested in that we haven't, but there are three questions that always that are always brought up, and there's never a good like rationalization or explanation given for that. And the three questions are, well, like why did we tape over the telemetry data tapes? And it's not just like like 3 or 4 or 10 or 100. It's a metric tons worth of tapes.
It's not like somebody just let the tape in the VCR.
Yeah, no, it's not like it's not like it's not like
my three's company.
Yeah, your three's company, and then your sister goes and records the Andy Griffith Show or something. That's not what happened here. It's like the entirety of like shows that have been aired, like that amount of tapes, and then someone went and like taped over them or
scrubbed
because that's another inconsistency about that particular
the Hillary Clinton.
That's an interesting thing about that particular explanation of it because first they had the tapes. It's like, oh, we can show it to you whenever you want. It's like, okay, well, show us the tape. It's like, oh no, we lost the tapes. It's like, what? You lost the tapes? It's like, no, actually, we actually had the tapes. We had to tape over them. It's like, well, why'd you tape over them? It's like, oh, budgetary reasons.
Horse shit.
Exactly. It's just like it does none of these explanations answers to the questions is
just hearing that, and it's like this is arguably one of the greatest accomplishments of mankind of all time, and you're telling me budgetary issues like made you tape over the greatest like achievement in mankind?
Yeah, not just like Americans.
What would Cory Booker say to that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think Cory Booker would really be
right, but it's just like it's just that one question, and I mean I know he's not here, so I'm not really attacking him, but Dan brought up saying like
fucking attack him, goddamn Jew. It's okay, he's my best friend.
Yeah, it's his best friend.
That's how it starts.
Right, then
fucking Jew.
Right, then you get called an anti-Semite. No, but like, we the day we were all together and we started kind of getting into this. Like his thing was saying, oh well, it was also it was like kind of a national security thing too, because we didn't want the Russians to get the data or whatever. I'm just like, but at the time I didn't have a response to that. So I was like, huh, maybe. And then I was thinking about it. It's like, well, the Russians weren't supposed to get the A bomb, but they got it. So I don't think like the whole idea, like, because he said like, oh, like the whole thing was because national security, and we didn't want the Russians to get that data so that they could have like their own successful mission or whatever.
Well,
but it's like
the recipe to how to get there.
Yeah, but it's just like they weren't supposed to have to get the A bomb either, but they got the A bomb.
Fuck it, let them be second. I don't care.
Yeah, right? Yeah, have our sloppy seconds. Who cares? And which brings me to the other question that kind of gets into my brain is that no country followed us afterwards.
Right.
Because
I was going to ask you. I mean, like, why? I mean, why isn't it just? Let me try it. Let us try.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because every period of discovery on this planet has always precipitated by another country following. I mean, look at Columbus. Portugal, the Netherlands.
True, but now we're talking about space.
True.
And this is really the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And if the U.S. has been able to make it to the moon,
mm-hmm.
and the Russians sort of got close. I mean, the Chinese can put up some satellites,
mm-hmm.
and we have an international space station.
Mm-hmm.
But what would these countries be able to do without? If you take away everything the U.S. has done,
mm-hmm.
what would space exploration look like? What would any of that look like? It would be 25% of what it is now.
True.
NASA is going to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
NASA's got the International Space Station.
Mm-hmm.
We got JPL. U.S. We launched from Houston. I mean, I don't see the Chinese really doing much, or I think they would be if they could.
Well, are you saying that they don't have the infrastructure to?
I think it's more than infrastructure. I think it's that magical science that just gets you from here to there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've blown up a couple shuttles. Mm-hmm. Sorry, people died, but I don't know. I mean, it's.
Well, I know they killed a ton of cosmonauts. Like a bunch of them died in rocket
but it's
travel.
incredible technology to make it work.
Yeah.
True. Well, okay.
It's kind of one of those things where it's like if it was that easy, everybody.
But
would
I
be
mean,
doing it, right?
yeah. But I mean, like, but what is the issue with a developed nation like Britain or France?
Well, but you're right in
They're
a sense
not that
because
developed, honestly, to tell you the truth. Go ahead, Rob.
but no, you're right in a sense that how the technology that was used to, well, still incredible, back in the late 60s, we have even better technology today that people like lesser you could say lesser developed countries that don't have quite the same technologies that we did back then. They definitely have that technology now. How come they haven't gone to the moon?
Apparently, this is much more powerful than the computer that sent them to the moon.
Right, and that brings me to the next little thing that keep me from fully saying that we went to the moon, is that NASA themselves. Huh?
I'm still not convinced. I'm not so sure now. Go ahead.
Well, NASA themselves have said that it's like there's like this one prominent astronaut who said like, I go to the moon in a nanosecond, but we don't have the technology anymore, and it's too painful to recreate.
Wow.
And it's like that's not even like some hearsay stuff. He said it like in a NASA approved documentary.
I believe you, because you ever seen some of those documentaries with the Apollo 19, what they put the astronauts through to train them and the G-force testing and all that. That's what he's trying to tell you, is that there's probably there's not people that are really willing to go through this anymore, or
maybe
it's not really legal to put people through
but
this anymore,
but the fact that they said like, we can't create the technology, it'd be too painful, or not maybe, it's an interesting choice of words. It's too painful to recreate. I mean, I always took it as like, somehow there's some sort of
the soul.
Well,
in the training.
One thing you can say is like you have like one in a sense where the government was like, I don't care how many people we had to kill, we're gonna send someone up there. No. There's that, which probably could not happen today. Which
because of politics.
Because I think like as far as like the physicality that it does, because it's tough on the body.
Yeah.
Let's be honest with that.
Right.
No, there's some John Wayne mofos that went up there.
Yeah, those guys were tough. Fucking
Buzz Aldrin,
ball sacks.
Yeah, these are
bigger than
like
my
pilots.
head.
Yeah. They had a whole separate cart for their balls. I mean,
those people who do like test pilot shit, those guys are fucking mavericks. So those guys are crazy.
Yeah.
But so there's that, like, where it's like, I don't fucking care how many people die. We're sending someone up to that goddamn moon, which probably would not happen today if that didn't happen in 1969. It's probably not going to happen in 2019.
So let's ask ourselves, why did it happen in 1969? What's the context of the time? I mean, we're cutting into your story a little bit, but I mean, we're talking about Kennedy, the Cold War, the Bay of Pigs. There's an urgency in the air to show the world that the U.S. is top-notch technology. So
that brings me
going to the moon. It was a political move to show the world, you better watch out. You don't know what we can do.
That's what it wasn't. That wasn't one of the three, but that does bring an interesting point, because Kennedy's famous speech where he's like, we'll go to the moon in this decade.
Right. So
I think so it might have been politically motivated, and it's like you have to get us there at any cost.
But I'm starting to wonder if maybe they didn't go to the moon when they said they went to the moon. They went to the moon eventually, but maybe they made some sort of evidence to show they went to the moon as when they wanted to say they went to the moon, but then kept working on it.
But then what about the whole idea of because there's another. It's not one of the three, but it's the idea. It's like, they did go to the moon, but something happened and they weren't able to.
Camera broke.
Yeah, camera broke. Well, the feed was busted, so they did recreation, and they broadcast that, and I was like, then they still lied.
And that's you're right in a sense where because that's one I've heard that seems plausible where the camera the film technology at the time burned up. Yeah, it's like
solar radiation probably
where they couldn't do it. So they recreated it, which is kind of like we did it, but we don't have the film footage of it. But we need to have the film footage of it.
But then
when you watch those shows on TV and they reenactment, it's like
right. But then it's just but then it gets to this okay, well, so you lied to us, and so now we're supposed to believe that you're telling us the truth that we actually went there.
Right.
No, I mean, and I'm not trying to like just poke holes.
Yeah. No. This
everywhere.
is perfect. Just poke holes. But the three things I already brought up. So like now we could just like
What about the okay? Let's talk.
Holes.
Some things I hear, common things I hear about the moon landing conspiracy theory is the flag. People say like the flag would be moving, the flag wouldn't be moving. Yeah. It's in zero gravity. Like, did you come across anything?
Well,
like that?
of course I've heard those things, but those three questions are the only ones that are that you can't just like kind of science away those questions. Is it? There's more like practical, like kind of logical things, but and
shadows and
shadows and like how like if there's a single light source, then all the shadows should be parallel. But then if you see in the footage, you could see like from the rocks on the grounds that they intersect, which is like would be impossible, which denotes like multiple light sources.
Mm. But then there's people who say like that like with a good telescope, like from like an observatory, like that they can still see all the stuff all the shit that they left up on the moon.
Absolutely, you could probably zoom in enough to see footprints and tracks. I believe you really could. I mean,
and like the flag and like all that shit that they left up there.
You like that flag.
That's what they're saying.
Like
I believe you.
Okay, the optics, like the optic.
I know they have zoom in technology.
That good that you could see it.
I think you probably could. We'll have to look that up, people.
Yeah, I know. I probably have to go grip it. Maybe.
I believe you probably could. Because you know what? If not, you would have people scouring it, saying, "Where's the evidence of tracks? We see no footprints. Where's the flag?"
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Nowadays, we do have that technology to do it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know either. But those are the three. I mean, short of me, like. Either looking into like a really high power telescope and seeing it for myself, or actually going to the moon and seeing the site.
Yeah. So it's true though. I mean, like you're saying that it's why aren't we going back? It's just we did it. It was probably a huge feat.
Yeah,
to get
and
there,
I mean, and even as recently as Bush Senior, presidents have been saying that we're going to go back to the moon, but never.
Why don't we have a military base up there? It would be an ideal place for a military base, right? For
and
like
I mean,
Star Wars thing,
right? And just in terms of scientific research, just being able to observe stars without like the obstruction of an atmosphere, how much more beneficial would that be?
Yeah, and do you know the facts on this? Has the United Nations or whatever they call themselves declared the moon like a non-territory? So like, can any country go and like actually claim the moon?
I mean, technically, we claimed it.
I know. Our flags are still there. Our flags are still there, so it's ours.
Yeah,
but so now
we reserve the right to.
No, because I guess like because I'm a little ignorant
on Moon Resort.
Because I'm a little.
I want that Star Wars bar.
And now I'm a little ignorant on the situation, but so obviously if the moon landing is real, I do lean towards yes, but like I said, you raised some interesting questions. Have we ever gone back? Like, was that the only time that we went there? Because I know there was like the the famous like Apollo 13 where they didn't actually land on there because there was all this they fucked up and they had to kind of make their way back using the moon's gravity and all that crap. Right. That first of all that's got to be horrifying.
Yeah.
If it happened.
If it happened.
If it happened.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like have we ever actually gone back?
Well, not since supposedly Apollo 17.
Yeah, those weird shadow creatures, right? That came out and gone.
Oh yeah, there was that movie about like Apollo 19.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, like the supposed because like we only like it was only like the public
like
the publicized
arachnids or something.
The publicized missions were only up until Apollo 18. But there was supposedly, or like this movie came out called Apollo 19. Mm-hmm. It's all about the secret mission because like supposedly Russia.
Yeah, did we go back?
Yeah, supposedly Russia made it there, but then like they didn't come back, and so they sent up Apollo 19
to see what happened.
Yeah. Oh man.
I mean that was a movie. I'm not saying that actually happened, but
But life does reflect art.
But I will say the people that are willing to shoot their ass up into space, that has got to be horrifying because
that's why I haven't addressed like any like the technical things or like
because I know
really,
like
it's not my area of expertise,
You're
but
right.
it's like these three pretty basic like logic tests. It's like, well,
You're right. It does raise some interesting questions because I've heard the one that I felt was like kind of the most plausible was the fact that like the film, they couldn't film it because of the radiation, and that we actually did go there, but we had to kind of fake the film footage at the time, which we probably, if we did it today, that might not be the case.
Well, I mean, then it goes to China, and they're supposedly like, oh yeah, we went up there, or we didn't go, like we didn't put a man up there, but we put a rover or something. But it's like it looks so vague. It's like, yeah, we went to the dark side of the moon, and then like they supposedly have like the shot of the dark side of the moon. Just like,
I don't believe anything.
No,
my girlfriend's Chinese, but I don't believe anything that goddamn government does in China. Yes, it's like the Soviets. I don't believe goddamn thing that they do.
Careful, your social credit score is going to go down.
Oh yeah,
I know, right? But no, like the
damn, that's horrifying.
You have like because they found out like with like the Russian the Soviet space technology stuff that they were experimenting on, they killed so many people trying to shoot those guys up to space. Like, and like one of their famous
After the 500 monkeys.
yeah, one of their most famous cosmonauts that like he all of a sudden like they killed him. Yeah, it's like one of the things exploded and he burned to death, and then it's like, oh yeah, he just went on vacation. Like they didn't tell his family anything. They didn't tell and a lot of these guys died secretly. They didn't say a goddamn word, and we didn't find out about it until the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Damn,
that was 50 years almost.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
For like 40 years, like they kept those deaths secret.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it does take some massive balls to like strap yourself to a goddamn firework to shoot up to the moon or into space.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little older than you two gentlemen, but I remember when that space shuttle in the mid 80s, 85.
Yeah. The Challenger.
We were at school and they got us all together in a room to watch it live on TV, and then
kablooey.
Yeah, it was very sad.
Yeah.
I was about 13 at the time, so.
So it's like still.
Pretty well. I was
because that was like 85.
Yeah, I was like in 6th, 7th grade, something like that.
I was
one.
A thought, maybe.
5th graders.
You're a glint in your daddy's eye. I was. I was in diapers.
There was a teacher on board.
The
teachers were particularly.
I know. Oh my god.
Having one of theirs.
Yeah, one of their own.
Yeah, it was very sad. But
that's what it's like. The whole idea of like space technology and like the stuff that where we've been like sending stuff to like Mars and all these other planets, and we're getting all these like great shots, and it makes me wonder. It's like, well, yeah, we're sending all this like unmanned stuff up there. That's definitely a possibility. But as far as like the manned,
they're working on it.
I know
Richard Branson's working on something, right?
Well, you have Elon Musk, who's with
Richard
SpaceX.
Branson is trying to do like the space tourism, so get people like in lower Earth orbit, as opposed to
pretty cool.
And then I don't know if he's still doing it though, because I haven't heard like a lot about it recently.
Even that, like,
and then Elon Musk, of course, is he's trying to get people to Mars.
The other thing too is why I think some of the space travel is definitely harder nowadays, because we've the government has done so many different experiments.
Regulations.
No. You have all the space debris that is floating around the orbit. They actually are tracking all that space debris. That is, and it's a lot. It is a lot. It's all the
so you're trying
trash.
To go there and do something, and
because you have like the separating like of like
satellite from 1970, the shape of a school bus.
Yeah. All like the rockets that like when they separate and all that stuff.
All the cartridges or whatever.
That's like that's all floating around the Earth. The orbit.
Like as plastic to the ocean. Space debris.
But no, and that's why they have. If that doesn't get cleaned up, we may never get to space again.
Space duty.
And there was a guy that I think it was the Japanese. They were trying to create a way to clean up that space debris, but it's flying at such a fast rate.
So we've completely obstructed ourselves with our own trash. We've created
I think that's
barrier.
Maybe one reason.
Right, because we also have the micro stuff, like, if you go fast enough and, it could go through, like, your craft like a bullet.
Yeah, or you could have some sort of, like, magnetic field that would have the stuff sort of move around you as you went through it. It would be...
Oh, it's like a deflector.
Yeah, sure, deflector shield.
I mean,
I know, sorry.
Shield.
I know. Using some Star Trek lingo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also a possibility of, like, what we might end up having to do. Because I know there was a guy that was one of the Japanese. They were trying to, like, create, like, this net to, like, clean up that debris, and it just failed.
I think you would have to probably... You're gonna get some crazy people thinking, "Let's nuke it."
Oh God!
and then burn off our atmosphere,
blow it up, vaporize it.
But no, you raised some interesting questions, Andy. Like, as far as, like, why has no one? And because it's why isn't
there a hotel on the moon right now?
Like, I mean, but we're at what, like 50 years since, like, the
a little bit over,
maybe almost
60.
We're getting close to 60 years since the moon landing. Why? And at this point, with the technology that was used back then, how is it that no other the Chinese have at least the technology of what we did back in 1969, that they couldn't recreate that and go to the moon? Seems a little odd. You're right. No, like literally no one has, like, done it. Because I think that would be something that we, like, wow, China goes to the moon because they want to shit on the U.S. So what?
I would think if they could, they would go.
Yeah, I think so
me
too.
But
there's a bunch of stuff.
And the fact that, like, even, like, the U.S., like, I mean, are we really bored of the moon at this point? Like, why we haven't gone back? I mean, I know, like, Mars is kind of the next new frontier that we're trying to shoot for, but I mean, what? Like, we got, like, one moon mission. That was it.
Maybe the moon. Maybe
we learned everything we needed to know about the moon.
Maybe if you look at the difference between the moon and Mars, the moon has no real atmosphere.
True. I would agree that Mars is definitely more fascinating than the moon.
Well, maybe Mars has more potential
because it has an actual planet.
That's what I mean. Maybe Mars has more potential for actual colonization because it has an atmosphere that can maybe be manipulated or have maybe possibly for water. Moon is dry. Moon's like a big desert ball.
You're right, but, like, how we really
know that's what they what they want you to think.
But I mean, like,
the moon could be like Endor.
Could be could be like have an interior and it could be like an eggshell.
But the thing is, like,
party's on the inside.
Or there's that report saying that something like hit the moon and it rung like a bell. Oh. So it might be hollow.
Hollow core.
Yeah.
What were you saying about that?
But I was saying, like, so we did one moon mission and we learned everything that we needed to know about the moon. Like, that seems a little.
But you know what? Though? It is just a moon, and maybe it's possible. Maybe they're like, okay, we're here on this freaking rock. It's basically just a rock.
Although,
like a dusty rock.
I mean, it's not one
with
of the
not much pull on it, and it doesn't even. But it's pretty freaking far from the Earth. So
yeah,
from a military strategic point of view, you're like, this is too far for any defensive. I mean, wouldn't you want to be closer in, like, an orbiting satellite or something? So,
but it's like, but just I'm just saying from a curiosity standpoint. Like, I'm not talking about, like, military or anything like that, but just, like, from a scientific curiosity, like, we've learned everything that we're gonna learn about the moon.
Right? Like, aren't there any new young NASA scientists that are like, I think we should go back?
Yeah, I would want to go back, and it's like, let's. I mean, there may, like, I'm not saying, like, there's going to be, like, life up there or that we're going to necessarily discover anything new, but, like, the fact that, like, we've been potentially only once, and that we've learned everything we're going to learn from there.
But, like, have you ever driven through Barstow on the way to home?
Yeah.
Imagine maybe that's the moon, and it's
like I said, I'm not saying we're gonna learn anything fascinating.
Sorry, Barstonians.
Yeah, I know.
Not to shit on Barstow.
You got the coolest McDonald's ever.
Yes,
but I'm just saying, it's like it just seems like there's might be more to
Well, maybe it's a cover. Maybe they don't want us to think that there's much up there, but they've been working ever since.
That's what I'm saying. It could be like Endor. For all we know.
Maybe that's the whole point. Is like the moon. Forget about it. Forget about it.
You know, and maybe don't
look up that.
Maybe we already have like mining or operations or whatever already on the moon.
Wow.
And just we don't want to share with everybody else.
It's fascinating stuff, but no, you bring up some interesting questions. I've heard those same questions, and it's definitely who knows.
Yeah. Are we gonna leave Earth? Are we gonna have to colonize? Are we gonna trash this place to where we have to leave?
I don't know. If you ascribe to a certain,
if you listen to the left,
if you ascribe to a certain politician's outlook, then we're dead in like 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's over. Like why?
Over. So why bother?
Did you guys see the movie Elysium with Matt Damon?
Yeah.
Where the rich people live up there in the space station and float up there with their artificial atmosphere and all the post-war deplorables on Earth.
Yeah. So horrible.
That is what some of our politicians think of when we think about it.
Oh, just a quick little thing about the moon landing. You know, Neil Armstrong alleged. Neil Armstrong gave a moon rock to like Swedish ambassador or something, and they got it and they went and tested it, and they found that it was petrified wood.
Well,
and then
doesn't
also
mean that he doesn't have a moon rock in his
and then
back
also
pocket.
in interview back like in like late 60s, early 70s, or after the first moon mission, Apollo 11. Neil Armstrong couldn't tell you if there were a lot of stars or a whole sea of stars. Like during an interview, someone asked him like, "Oh, were you able to see like all these stars?" And then Neil Armstrong says, "Oh, I don't remember any stars." And then one like Michael Collins says like, "Oh, what are you talking about? There was a whole sea of stars." There was an immediate contradiction right then and there. You could look up the clip.
That's a little weird.
You could look up the clip.
That's pretty creepy.
Yeah, right. So how if it was so memorable that you remembered all these stars, or so unforgettable because you couldn't remember if you saw the stars?
But you know what? You would think it'd mess with your head to be looking at Earth from a distance.
True, but even still,
that would be a little bit unnerving for me.
I mean, seeing the world from that high up, yeah. I totally grant you that, but then also not being able to not like taking in like everything and then like burning it into your memory. Something like that. It's there's already like a contradiction in there because Neil Armstrong said that he doesn't remember seeing stars, but Michael Collins says like, what are you talking about? There was a whole like it was crazy crammed with stars.
So then like because that's a very interesting. You know, the guy that like was the first guy on the moon.
Yeah.
And you're right because like maybe he's a little distracted.
Right. Yeah, he's like completely overcome with like the experience of like seeing the Earth, you know, in all its majesty that he couldn't remember if there.
Because no one's gonna say, fuck it, I'm on the moon." Yeah. All right, I'm here. You know, no one's gonna. It's pretty amazing because but maybe like two other people have been on the moon besides himself. But
isn't that if they're on the moon and they're on the bright side of the moon, wouldn't the sun always be constantly shining and you wouldn't really be seeing stars?
Well, no, this wasn't even like on the moon. It's like when they just got they're just en route in the orbiter.
But you know, but I don't know because
that's a good question.
Whenever you see like images from the space station and stuff like that, you don't really see stars in the background. You kind of see like just black, like.
True.
You kind of do, but you kind of don't. Like it would have. There's too many lights. I think. Like the astronaut would have to testify to it, but
maybe
from what we've seen in pictures,
I don't know. It's just like it was just weird because like you're from the same trip, you're getting two different accounts.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't remember seeing stars. Oh, what are you talking about? There were a bunch of stars, and Neil Armstrong was the one like looking out the window most of the time.
Trust these government people, man.
You know, that's what
they got their stories wrong.
That's
elbowing them under the table. We're supposed to say no stars.
No, exactly. And he does or you know they
because
someone
does maybe you couldn't see the stars.
Yeah, because someone does a quick nudge. I forget
stars.
Which one does it, but yeah, someone gets nudged like, hey,
official stories.
Yeah.
Well, I know like Buzz Aldrin like punched a guy in the face for something.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was actually pretty entertaining. But
yeah, it's like we never went to the moon, Buzz. Bah! Right in the face.
That makes me think we went. You know, I mean, old man's pretty proud of going.
True.
Punch in the face.
But like I said, you bring up some interesting questions, Andy. Yeah. I know there's like that's like kind of like one of the common like conspiracy theories out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, recreating a studio, bouncing.
Yeah.
Like some.
Why didn't the astronauts get more than like 6 inches off the ground if they were in 1/6 gravity? You know, and then some people say like, oh well, what about their gear and stuff that would have weighed them down? It's like in 1/6 gravity, everything would be in 1/6.
Yeah, right. It's all relative.
Yeah,
actually, funny thing, like a little bit of a side note. One of the games that I like to play, Gran Turismo 6, they actually have a whole thing on like where you can drive the lunar lander on the moon. yeah. It's actually pretty damn fun. It's like it's definitely not floating 6 inches above the ground. I mean, you can get some decent air off of that thing.
And then you'd have to assume that the film industry, Hollywood people can keep their mouth quiet in cooperation with the government to create a fake film about a moon landing.
Well, and here's the thing, like about that too. Like some of the stuff that we talked about, you would have to think that would be the same thing. But as we talked about, for us, like we just like we want World War II to be over. Mm-hmm. We want that. Like we don't want. We're kind of like wanting to like we're dealing with the Russians. We have we have these other things going on. And kind of similar with what Andy's doing is like we're trying to beat the Russians to the moon. We want to keep this narrative as we want to keep this narrative. Not that it didn't happen, or like not that like any of our scenarios didn't happen, but it's like it's kind of the what does the government know as far as like as opposed to like what the public knows. Right. And as far as like what I think about the moon landing is that it did happen, but I think the film footage was probably faked because of the film technology at the time was it couldn't handle the radiation.
Sure, it's like
that was out there.
Yeah, but then at that point, it's like, how can you trust them?
You're right.
They're still like
I said. There's questions.
Like, they're lying because they're lying. Either they're lying about going to the moon, or they're lying about why.
They're lying about lying.
They're lying about lying.
Right. But I think like for us,
it throws that little little speck, that little pebble in your shoe. It's like, well, you lied to me like about this footage. Like it wasn't from the moon. It was something like you had in reserve in case something went wrong, and it just happened to go wrong, and so now that's why you have to show me this fake footage, even though we really went.
I think they're happy with us thinking that way.
Maybe
I think they're like, you guys just chew on this for as long as y'all need to.
Yeah, and I'm not, and again, we could have very well have gone to the moon, but that that lie kind of makes me wonder. If they did what Robert was saying, they shot this thing just as in case something happened to the footage or something happened to the signal from the moon itself, because they supposedly that goes into another technical thing that I don't want to really get into, because one, I'm not an expert, and two, it's like too technical to try to explain to people. But it's like so you're saying that you shot this footage just in case that either one, like the footage that you brought back from the moon got destroyed, or the signal from the actual event when Neil Armstrong comes down from the ladder, that somehow gets lost.
Are you saying that they filmed this before they went to the moon?
Yeah,
but does it make sense? Because wouldn't they want to take some visual data from their trip?
Well, see, I think,
back and try to recreate the bounce and the dirt and the rocks.
But the thing is, like, I think they kind of sort of did that, because I know my grandfather worked for, I think he was working with Hughes Helicopter at the time, and they actually built satellites that were being used to kind of take in all this information. He was the one that was building some of the initial satellites before we went to the moon. So people were doing that. They were taking all this information and
so we had all the data. We had like pictures of the soil and
and they probably did simulations as far as like the gravity as compared to the Earth and like all that stuff would do. So you can make what Andy's saying is true. It's possible that they did kind of a simulation. This is what it's going to look like before we go up there. Let's film it just in case. And then like they may not have released it like as far as like when they actually did go up there. I don't know if radio transmission was a thing.
Could also be for training purposes, like a simulator.
Right, that's
get
also
these guys
a possibility.
like in the suits, get them bouncing around or whatever, and like sort of get them prepared for what they might.
Yeah, potentially.
Why wouldn't you not want to get them prepared for what they might experience? I mean, like the shock of looking down where you are and seeing your planet.
Or just like we're operating in 1/6 the gravity. Yeah, why not?
Like I said, it's.
I mean, I'm not fully bought into the idea that we didn't go, but it's like those three questions are just like the little.
I think
things
we probably
in my brain.
I think maybe some people died trying to go there that we don't know.
Oh yeah,
about.
Absolutely.
And I think the guys,
just like the Russians, like a ton of them died.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
They don't quite make them like that anymore much, and I think they landed there and they went there, they walked around, put a flag, and then went home, and probably realized that was hard.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too is like the guys that are the people that are going up into space. For one, it's not just some like Joe Schmo on his couch. Like it takes a fuck ton of training, and it's possible that your body's not going to make it. That's why they do all that testing beforehand.
Yeah. Also, a big thing about probably why we're not so easily traveling in space and doing that is because of the radiation. I don't think they've really.
That's the other thing I
really protect people from the radiation exposure.
True, because
because the Van Allen belt. It's like
I know
crossing that and like going out into like actual outer space is like the equivalent of like 100 like nuclear bombs.
You get cancer.
Cancer like that.
Well, and that was that was like my grandfather. The satellites they were trying to detect like all the radiation that was in there, and Armstrong's dead. And like I know Buzz Aldrin's still alive, but like there was a third guy, right? Is he dead too?
Michael Collins, the one that stayed on in the module.
Yeah, is he dead?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean like a lot of the guys that
want to get out.
Yeah. Well, I guess he just drew the short straw.
Yeah, a lot of these guys they're dead.
Yeah.
So it makes sense too that the
truth
who knows
that
that like
them.
Right. That the radiation like
there's got to be
may have
files
killed.
though. There's files.
Like I said, interesting thought experiment. You bring it, you raise some interesting questions that aren't just like the tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, like the Earth is flat and like blah, moon travel is impossible, blah blah blah. It's like but it's kind of it raises questions,
right? Just like simple, like logical kind of questions. It's not, that's why I didn't go into like any like the technical things about like, radio signal or like transmissions or like the radiation stuff. It's just like simple, like, like why didn't no country follow us? Why did they tape over all the tapes? Even though, they preserved the Constitution and like the Declaration of Independence and George Washington.
Simpler questions need to be answered.
That to me is the interesting one is why did we tape over that? This is, it doesn't matter what country. Who cares? If we got there first, why the fuck are we taping over that shit?
Yeah. And Dan cited budgetary things. Well, including the national security.
But
it's like at the time they were operating. Well, in 1969, the operating budget for NASA was like $23 billion, and equivalent to nowadays, that's $135 billion.
It doesn't matter. This is the greatest accomplishment of mankind.
This is World War II
ever. This is the greatest.
That's what I'm saying.
This is our moon landing.
I know this is our moon.
No, but I'm serious though. Like this is
I'm look at that rock. No,
dude,
it's too hard.
we still have preserved George Washington's wooden dentures. Okay, and you're saying that because you didn't get enough of the taxpayers' money that you couldn't save tapes.
Fuck off! Like that's the thing with me is like this is the greatest accomplishment of mankind to date, and you taped over the fucking like telemetry.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the
right,
Russians.
and it's just the lies. The lies is what makes it worse. Because
Right.
at first they said
curing
like
cancer, and then say, "Oops."
yeah, I came up with the cure of cancer on a bar napkin, but then the waitress came and threw it away. Whoops!
I had to wipe my
It's
ass
like,
with
no.
it.
Yeah.
Because at that point, like, okay, if the Russians get to the moon second, who the fuck cares? We were there first. We win.
But at that time, I can understand the Russians were a real threat. If they do get their second, even they could build something that could be a threat. I mean, the Cold War.
The fear of the Russians.
We did nuclear drills in school in the 80s. Get under your desk, cover your heads.
Oh shit!
Here comes the bomb.
Well, I know.
Because it was still like the 80s.
Mhm.
It wasn't until in 91 when the Berlin Wall fell.
Yeah.
And this there.
Yeah, you're right. I think that is the most. Yeah, that question alone like raises a lot of like.
It made me think now. Okay, speaking of questions alone. Okay, now any U.S. president when they get elected, they have access to any classified materials.
Right.
Let's go around the table. If you were elected president, and I'm thinking it might be our topics we raise. If you were president, what would be the one thing you'd want to see the real answer to?
Ooh.
I'll start.
Okay.
I'd want to know if they have an alien body, like not just a straight scrap.
Okay.
An actual
body, like in formaldehyde and all, like an Independence Day,
an actual body, an actual a gray,
Mm-hmm.
That would just,
or if he's like, or if he has his own pad like a Malibu and just chilling.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean that would be something I'd want to know the actual answer to.
Okay.
Like, is there an actual being?
Mm-hmm.
Like the can I see the thing with the black eyes?
Right.
And doing some of my research from this UFO stuff, I was listening to accounts of people. Like there was an account that really kind of freaked me out. I don't remember the year, but it was at a small town in Nigeria, at a boys' school. Some lights and stuff going on outside. They'd go outside. There's some lights swirling around. And then apparently they look over in the yard and they see a being about 1 meter high. And they describe the big black eyes as the size of rugby footballs.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Shit.
Yeah. Shit. I mean, who knows if that's true, but it's just. So my one question would be like.
Do we have a body?
Do we have a body? Do we have an alien body? Right. And like, how is it? I want to see the organics of it. Like, is it skeletal? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it organic tissue? Is it similar to us? Do we have any DNA relation?
Mm.
So that would be my thing.
I think that's.
Robert, what about you?
Oh, God, there's so many things that I want to know.
I'd be such a Beto president.
Well, I mean, like the stuff that I raised up. I mean, there is evidence that that they, it's out there. Like it's not, like I said, what I talked about to me is it's plausible not only because of just like the evidence of stuff that they found archaeologically that they searched for, but it's in the fucking documents. And I wish the thing is the problem is that they shut down Alex Jones's channel, so I can't. And he showed the documents that were declassified, and I can't fucking find that video. I'm so
I wonder
pissed.
if the U.S. government had any knowledge of his existence and had any part in just sort of keeping it quiet.
From based off of what Jones was talking about, and he was looking at the actual documents. Yeah. These were declassified documents that they were working with Hitler to during the Cold War because they wanted.
During the Cold War. What year would this be that you're talking about?
This is like in the 50s.
Okay, yeah.
With Hitler.
With Hitler.
Okay.
Because Hitler didn't like the communists either.
Right.
And he has obviously intimate knowledge of the way they think, the way they fight.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So.
Holy crap.
Who was president in the 50s? Was this Eisenhower?
This is Eisenhower into.
So can you imagine the president?
Yeah, it was Eisenhower.
Can you imagine if it gets out, the president at the time, you knew Hitler's alive and you didn't.
Yeah, bring him to justice or. Oh, man.
Well, that's to serve a greater purpose.
And
did Eisenhower serve 2 terms?
Yeah, he served 2 terms.
You can see these old school guys making these decisions.
And we brought up the point that it's like we want World War II to be over. It makes sense. So
someone like Eisenhower could make that decision. A military man can make.
And he knows, he was there.
He's a general. Yeah, he was a general.
Security and this and that.
It's like he saw if him being the president at the time,
the wisdom of
and he understood. It's like, I don't want to do this, but at the same time, I understand the importance of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I'm hoping I can find the videos at this point. Maybe we can kind of throw it in the channel at some point to kind of.
You know what I would suggest? This is wild, but reach out to Alex and imagine if you wanted to pass the baton, have someone pass. I wish that he could pass the baton to somebody who hasn't been deplatformed and pass on all those original videos and just re-release them.
Maybe that's what I had to do, because what he was talking about was because he was showing the actual. It wasn't just some bullshit.
Somebody's got the originals.
It's declassified, but I can't find there's so many documents that I can't search through that shit.
But you know what? Yeah, but just speaking about the power of the battle for information.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to listen to Alex Jones sometimes, and it was really easy because I could just pull up a YouTube channel of a guy that used to post his shows all the time, and it was super easy. I'd listen to it when I'm not. Now, if you want to listen to it, you have to really go out of your way.
Mm-hmm.
You got to punch onto this wacky app that flips here out in and out, and it's really sad that he's.
You got the app, the InfoWars app.
It doesn't work much.
Oh,
it's really blotchy, whatever. It doesn't really work. It's just sad that the power of the machine can really squash a voice like this because he's just talking. So what? You don't like what he says? Whatever.
Yeah, you don't have to watch.
This is classic free speech of American being squashed. This is just a guy with a microphone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What's any different than what we're saying? We're just guys with microphones.
Mm-hmm.
So someone can come and just squash it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've talked about it. It's horseshit.
Okay, really quickly then, what I would want to know.
Belly a little bit here.
What I would want to know if I was, president. I just want to know about JFK.
That's true. Yeah.
That's what I would want to know.
That is a rough video.
Yeah. That's all I want to what was. I wanted to know all the factors.
Bad for his wife. Oh god.
Yeah. It's just if you see in the Zapruder film, after he gets the final one in his head, then she actually kind of goes back and I think instinctually tries to go and grab parts of his brains, and it's they could fix him. They could
that's the disturbing part for me.
It's fucked up.
The love of a spouse to retrieve every part of your.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
And she probably knew about a lot of his infidelities, but that she still cared about him that much to we can save him if I have this brain part. That's
a lot of women understand powerful men,
mm-hmm.
and that's probably a very, very scary moment.
Mm.
Yeah, it's that you look at that video, it's holy fuck, that's scary.
Yeah, so that's what I would want to know, and I would have gone into the whole JFK conspiracy thing, but
it's pretty complicated.
It's very complicated.
We've already gone past it. Do you think that there was more than one shooter? Do you think there was more than one person involved?
Definitely.
I want to say yes, but here. Okay, well, this is an interesting kind of little theory.
Because we know Oswald was a communist.
Right, and it comes from, this particular theory comes from...
Ted Cruz is dead.
Good one. But this is actually something I heard from Joe Rogan. He was saying how, he knows security guys or special forces guys, and they were saying it totally makes sense that the final shot, the headshot, was an accident, probably from a Secret Service or a counter sniper or something, because it was so high powered.
Huh.
Because all the other
two
bullets,
different calibers.
Yeah, 2 different calibers. Because the kind of
suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, because all the other bullets that went into his body and went in through his throat, they didn't cause that kind of explosive
head trauma. Yeah,
head trauma.
Yeah, he kind of
that cavitation. Yeah, it just the bullets just kind of went into him, but then all of a sudden
hypersonic.
Yeah, exactly, from a high powered rifle.
Maybe there was a backup sniper.
Exactly.
Maybe, I think maybe one more than one shooter. Oswald maybe was shooting, but then there was a backup one who was like, no, that's not going to get it done.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Oh, well, Joe Rogan's point was like, maybe it could have been, it was more on the style of like an M16 round. And so maybe there was
those have no accuracy.
Right, but he was like, that's what he's saying. Like maybe there was like a Secret Service guy on the side with it, but that doesn't really track either. So it might be more like what you were saying, how that there was like the lone gunman, quote unquote, but then like the
it's not the lone gunman.
Yeah, he was the backup to get because
maybe they never even expected him to do the kill shot. Maybe there was like, here, you shoot this.
Yeah, you just kind of like
they're gonna find
shoot into it. Yeah. You just kind of shoot into it,
because a high-powered sniper rifle is really hard to trace where it came from.
Right.
But maybe a different kind of rifle that Oswald was shooting is like very easy for people to turn and say that window.
Yeah, it was some like really.
So maybe that was all just a decoy,
right? Because they found
the real kill shot came from somewhere else.
Oswald really was the fall guy, and then there was like the last one, with the kill shot.
Because with Oswald, they found with like the gun that he shot was like some like weird like Italian gun or something like that, and it was like this weird bullet. Like it did hit.
Yeah,
like
low
Kennedy.
caliber,
right? But
low velocity.
Like
low velocity.
Because he actually defected to the Soviet Union. We don't know what happened when he was over there.
Mind control, shock therapy, who knows?
And it's like because they questioned because when he went over to the Soviet Union, he was definitely questioned of like, why the hell do you want to be here as being an American? And so we don't know what happened over there. And it's possible, like maybe, mind control, whatever you can think of. And it's like, it's like, well, we're gonna kill Kennedy, and it's like but like to make sure that you do it, like we're gonna have another guy somewhere else. We don't know. Who's
gonna kill you if you don't?
Right? Yeah, it could be.
And your mom.
Well, there's that. There's the idea that there was something. Fuck! I had the idea, and there's a lot of different ideas of like what possibly happened.
What's to say he wasn't? Yeah, what's to say he wasn't coerced and threatened?
Well, and there's a lot of things too, like where there was a speech that Kennedy had made, several weeks or months before the shooting, like where he was kind of like he went with like one narrative as and this is kind of like the political like American narrative, and he was like, oh, he got kind of like push into the presidency, which he kind of was. Yeah, there was a lot of people that feel like he kind of cheated the presidency, cheated himself into the presidency with his dad and all that. They are
kind of an elitist East Coast family,
right? But then he changed the narrative as far as like he kind of went more of a different direction, his own direction, and it's like, oh, we don't want that.
Some supporters, maybe
there was so it was that. It's like, well, he's going against the narrative. We're gonna kill him, and then there was
Johnson in on it.
Many people. I would be one that I think Johnson's on it, based off of like what happened right after.
I think he's a globalist.
Johnson was a
globalist.
Terrible person.
Was he influenced by the Russians? Was it like,
I don't know if he was influenced by the Russians, but like I think he's a terrible person who like wanted power.
Right. I mean that shot of him like being sworn in on Air Force One with Jackie O,
and the story behind that.
Dude, that was the greatest getaway ever.
And the thing is, people don't realize that Kennedy's body was rotting on that plane, that hot plane. It's like where it's like, oh, I need to be sworn in right now. I don't care, like if his body's rotting in the back. That was what was happening, and like Kennedy,
and
Jackie Kennedy's like it was still covered. in
she
blood.
was still covered in blood. She was still wearing like the same like Chanel pink.
That was pants. Hours after Kennedy died.
Is that how? I mean, is that the way that chain of command goes? Is that the process?
Well, no. It usually doesn't happen that quickly.
Does it have to happen like that?
He made it happen that quickly. Okay. That's where I'm kind of like I would not.
And
I would not.
If you're not sworn in, who's technically the president? If you're not sworn in,
I mean, he would still like act within like
you're acting president,
right? He would still be acting within like the power, but he like forced it into like.
Yeah,
that's where I'm like I would not be surprised.
Thing changes it. he's like, no, I have to be sworn in.
And then what happened between that
Right.
year and the next 8 years? Vietnam,
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of. We don't.
Well,
really
Vietnam
wanna
was
fight
already kind of technically going on,
right, but we sort of.
But
we're not
the
gonna
escalation
fight
and
communism
American
that hard.
and
Maybe we're gonna
American
back out.
Yeah. I mean, I think under Kennedy,
And he was
it was more concerted,
Right.
as opposed to under Johnson, where
backed off
a little bit.
right?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if is that connected?
Maybe.
Russian communism, Johnson kills Kennedy, Johnson president, U.S. backs off communism. I mean, it's ...
I wouldn't be surprised
Oh,
because
yeah.
he was an awful person. He was terrible. But but then there's that. Then there's the idea that like the mafia went after him, like it's,
Kennedy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for his brother, because Robert was going after.
Yeah,
him,
Robert,
right?
like
Robert was prosecuting the mob, and it was like the mob that supposedly got him in the
And he
office.
was very because the Kennedys were very anti-union. Considering although they were Democrat, they were very anti-union.
Mm.
That's a possibility that the mafia killed them.
Crossed. Maybe, but it's a little high tech for mob work, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they were involved in the
You never
unions, in unionizing people.
Well, but I mean high tech. I'm talking about the actual assassination
Right.
of Kennedy.
But as far as
It was very
a little
sophisticated.
bit-
It was more sophisticated
That may- that's
than.
the word I'm
Well, I said like
Yeah.
they may have like bought into like politicians and like people
Yeah, they
who
may have
were high up
supported it,
that
maybe
were
even
like
took some money on
supporting
it, and yeah.
that stuff. So that's.
But then also
But I'm
trying
not sure
to.
if they were actually the actual personnel that took it.
right.
Took it.
Like you said,
Hey, you never
But-
know.
questions.
Italian gun.
There's a
Italian
ton.
gun?
Yeah, there's a ton of questions as far as like how that goes. It's insane.
Has it all been declassified? Trump knows.
I know.
Well,
that's,
okay.
Is
that's
it
what they
nighttime
were
reading
trying-
for him?
Yeah, I wish.
No, that's the thing. It was like
Tonight, Ivanka,
all of the.
what happened to John F. Kennedy.
Well, the documents were supposed to be declassified.
Yeah.
Like last year or like in 2017,
I gotta
but
pee
for
again.
some reason, I think Trump put it off, or like a lot of it was like redacted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what Trump thinks about all the stuff he's read. I mean, he's a sort of a non-politician,
Yeah.
average guy, been sort of in the world and interested in things, and all of a sudden you're president, you can look at whatever you want.
Right. Yeah, it was funny because like I wonder if like his State of the Union address when he shout out Buzz Aldrin. I wonder if that was like kind of like a troll move. Be like, oh, I was like, because he knows that we didn't go to the moon. It's like, yeah, we didn't go to the moon. It's like, yeah, Buzz Lightyear, second man on the moon. Like, yeah, Buzz, take a chance. It's like because there was a shot where after he did his little salute and whatever, there's like a look on his face like, well, yeah, we're gonna go back to the moon. It's gonna be, and like Buzz Aldrin had like this look of like, holy shit, like, oh my god, he knows. like that,
Yeah.
we didn't go. I was like, oh, it's really funny.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh man, yeah, this episode was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hurry up, Robert, so we can end this thing.
You missed your speed bump.
Oh,
At
whatever. Yeah, at 3 hours, I don't give a shit anymore. Oh man, but this was a really fun episode.
Yeah, that was interesting. Conspiracy theories.
Yeah, conspiracy theories. Yeah, and again, we would never suicide ourselves. Okay, never, ever. All right,
Right.
especially if if we're found with 2 different calibers in our heads. Not a suicide. Oh man, it's all so fun. Yeah, let's wrap this bitch up.
Alright, we are way. I think this is like dual podcast mode.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, it's like sometimes the good guys do bad things, sometimes the bad guys do good things. I think it's important to at least ask questions. You don't have to always buy into every conspiracy theory, but I think the ones that we pose are semi-plausible.
Question authority.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Question.
don't believe anybody over 30.
Except for us.
Yeah. Fuck, God, we are all over 30.
man.
Yeah.
Man. It's all the government, man.
So this is a long podcast. If you're like, oh, you guys are fucking full of shit. Well, it's April Fool's Day, so whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways,
take it for what you will.
I think we proposed good evidence. So well, whatever. And the police are outside, so
I know.
Yeah,
Oh
dude.
shit!
they're coming after us. So anyway,
Sarah, you gave me up.
yeah. So, anyways, that's it for us. That's it for the podcast. So, if you are interested in watching other podcasts of ours, we have a whole library that's behind this episode. We have every Tuesday we do Andy and myself. We do a live stream based off of what the hell's going on in the world. We do movie reviews. Or we just have a grand old time talking about bullshit like we did today, and so that's every Tuesday around 8:00. There's another show too that I do, Up by Up Down, which is on a little bit of a hiatus, which is gonna come back at some point, probably this year. It's I don't know. It's gonna come back, but if you like gaming, if you like old school gaming, that's what Up by Up Down is about. There's a whole library of playthroughs and whatnot. Yeah, and so that's it for us. Question authority. Let your mind be blown.
You shout out our social media.
Oh yeah, the social medias. That's important too. Yeah, Twitter at podcastcoj, Instagram at Circle of Jerks podcast. And hit us up on those. We're always throwing up little clips and all sorts of little cool stuff. So if you don't want to watch the full thing, we're throwing up clips. We're throwing up links. Check them out. And great episode. I'm excited. I know Andy's gonna be pissed off because it's 3 hours and and plus. I'm sorry, Andy.
You motherfuckers.
We are now the record. Anyways, guys, question authority. Think deep. And we'll see you next time.
Deuces. All right, we're out.
Peace. Peace. No.
Oh, that was fun. Right?
Yeah.
I say it takes a little while to get your rhythm or get